My cousin staged an intervention for my drug use just because she saw me with a syringe, so I laughed in her face in front of everyone. Hello, and welcome back to Story Nest. Remember to subscribe. It's the easiest way to support us and stay updated on our stories. It all began with a seemingly ordinary family dinner. The smell of roasted chicken filled the air as my mom's voice echoed around the dining room. The usual banter between family members was in full swing, and I felt at ease, enjoying the conversation and the food. But something in the air shifted when Kara, my cousin, who had always been a bit too curious for her own good, noticed me slipping away from the table. I had a strict regimen I followed for my ear condition. Every other day, I had to put medicated drops in my ears to prevent infections, tinnitus, and vertigo. After the drops settled in, I had to flush my ears with a rubber-tipped syringe to clear out the excess wax. It was an odd procedure, but necessary. Only my wife and parents knew about it, mainly because it was embarrassing for me. I'd been bullied for it when I was younger, and it was hard to shake off that sense of shame. I didn't want anyone else to know. When my alarm went off, signaling it was time to take care of my ears, I excused myself from the table. I figured no one would notice. But as I walked down the hallway toward the bathroom, I saw Kara standing there, a curious look on her face. "Where are you going?" she asked, narrowing her eyes. "Just a little medical thing," I said, trying to brush it off. I didn't want to explain myself, especially not to Kara, who had a habit of gossiping. She didn't let it go. "What kind of medical thing? Are you okay?" she pressed, crossing her arms. I felt my stomach knot, frustration building. "It's personal, Kara," I said firmly, brushing past her and stepping into the bathroom. But the next part made my blood run cold. As I was about to finish up, I heard her voice again, this time from just outside the door. "Why did you take so long in there? And the toilet didn't even flush. What were you really doing?" I felt my face flush with anger. This was beyond intrusive. "None of your business," I snapped, opening the door quickly and walking back to the dining room, trying to ignore her as best I could. She called out after me, but I didn't look back. This was ridiculous. I couldn't believe she was making this such a public issue. The following weekend, I thought I was in the clear. After the awkward moment with Kara at dinner, I figured things would settle back to normal. My family wasn't the type to dwell on things, and I didn't expect Kara to bring it up again. That was until my phone buzzed on Saturday morning. It was a text from my friend Mark, who'd invited me out for lunch. "Hey man, let's meet up at my place first. We can catch up before grabbing something to eat." I was looking forward to it. Mark was one of those friends who had always been there for me. No judgments, no questions. I had told him about my condition years ago, and he never made me feel weird about it. So when he said a few friends would be there, I wasn't concerned. I figured it would be a chill gathering with good food and even better company. When I arrived at Mark's house, I was immediately struck by the somber atmosphere. Mark's living room was unusually quiet, and my friends were all sitting in a tense cluster on the couch, looking almost uncomfortable. And then I saw her, Kara, sitting in the corner, arms crossed, her gaze fixed on me. A wave of unease washed over me. "Hey, everyone," I said, my voice upbeat, trying to mask the growing discomfort in my stomach. "What's going on?" Mark cleared his throat. We need to talk," he said, his words heavy with a kind of hesitance I wasn't used to. He motioned to the others. It's about you." My heart skipped a beat. I had a sinking feeling I knew exactly where this was going, but I didn't want to jump to conclusions. "What about me?" I asked, trying to keep my tone casual, though the tension in the air was palpable. Kara stood up abruptly, stepping forward. "It's about your problem," she said, her voice unnervingly serious. "We just want to help you. We've been talking about it, and we think it's time you dealt with this issue." I froze. My stomach churned. So this was it. She'd turned my private medical situation into something for everyone to discuss. This wasn't help, it was an intervention. I glanced at my friends, hoping they would say something, anything to defuse the situation, but they all seemed unsure of how to react. I couldn't help it. A laugh bubbled up from deep within me. Are you serious right now? I asked, incredulity dripping from my voice. You think this is a problem? You think I need your help with my condition? Kara's face tightened, and she crossed her arms even more, like she was bracing for something. Well, yeah, she said, her tone unyielding. You've been hiding it for so long. We're just concerned. It's not healthy to keep something like this a secret. I felt a sharp sting in my chest. The defensiveness in her voice, the way she was speaking like I was some kind of ticking time bomb, made my blood boil. First of all, why didn't you talk to my wife or my parents about this? You know, the people who actually care about me? Kara's eyes flared with irritation. Because they're just enabling you. They're not doing you any favors by letting you keep this secret. I could feel my frustration boiling over. This wasn't just about my health anymore. It was about respect for my privacy, my choices. Enabling? I repeated, laughing bitterly. Are you calling my family enablers? This isn't a drug addiction, Kara. This is a medical condition. I'm following the treatment plan I've been given, and I don't need you or anyone else making it into some kind of spectacle. My friends were all watching, their eyes darting between me and Kara. They were clearly uncomfortable with how the conversation was unfolding, but they didn't know how to stop it. Kara looked like I'd slapped her. I'm just trying to help, she said, her voice shaking with frustration. But fine, if you're going to be this way, I'm done trying. Without waiting for a response, Kara stormed out of the room, the doors slamming behind her with a finality that echoed in the now awkwardly silent living room. I stood there for a moment, the adrenaline still pumping through my veins. I wasn't sure whether I was angry, embarrassed, or just exhausted. But I wasn't about to let this go. Not without making things clear. Turning to my friends, I exhaled deeply. I can't believe that just happened, I said, trying to steady my voice. I mean, she literally cornered me about something that's none of her business. I didn't want to hide it from you guys, but I've kept this private for a reason. One of my friends, Luke, was the first to speak up. Man, we had no idea it was like that. We thought you were just doing your own thing. We didn't want to push, but hearing her talk like that was messed up. I appreciated his words. It felt good to know that they weren't judging me, but I also felt a weight in my chest. This wasn't how I wanted people to find out, especially not through a confrontation. It was my body, my health, and I shouldn't have to justify it to anyone. So I said after a beat, trying to lighten the mood. I guess Kara's really made this all about her now. Not like I had any say in that, huh? The room chuckled, the tension easing just a little. Still, the words hung heavy in the air. Kara had gone too far, and now I had to deal with the fallout. I took a deep breath, trying to put the whole thing behind me. Anyway, thanks for hearing me out, I said, turning to my friends. It's good to know you guys have my back. The next few days were a blur. I had hoped that after Kara stormed out of Mark's house, things would settle. I thought it would be just another family issue that would blow over in time. But of course, that wasn't the case. Things only got messier from there. By Monday evening, I had started receiving texts from family members. The first one came from my mom, just as I was sitting down to dinner with my wife. Hi, honey. We need to talk about Kara. I felt my stomach drop. My mom was a kind woman, but she had this way of putting pressure on me when it came to family dynamics. I had a bad feeling about this. I tapped out a quick response, trying to sound calm. What about her? Well, she's really upset. She says you were rude to her and that you embarrassed her in front of everyone. She feels like you didn't give her a chance to help. I set my phone down and leaned back in my chair, trying to keep my composure. The last thing I needed was another round of guilt tripping. I didn't embarrass her. She embarrassed me, I replied, my fingers tightening around the phone. She crossed a line. It's my personal health, and she had no right to push me like that. I understand, sweetie, but you know how Kara is. She's just trying to be helpful, even if she went about it the wrong way, my mom wrote back. I let out a sharp breath. I don't think it's about help, Mom. She made my condition a public issue, and I don't want people like her thinking they have a right to pry into my private life. I don't owe her an explanation. There was a pause, and when my mom responded, I could tell she was trying to be gentle. I get that, I do. But maybe you should apologize to her. She's really upset, and it's causing a rift in the family. I'm just asking you to think about it. I felt the frustration building in my chest again. It was always the same. No one seemed to understand why this was such a big deal to me. To them, it was just an awkward moment, something that could be smoothed over with a few words. But to me, it felt like an invasion, like my dignity had been trampled on in front of everyone. I'll think about it, but I'm not apologizing just to make her feel better, I wrote, my fingers stiff as I typed. The conversation with my mom was draining, and as soon as I put my phone down, I felt a weight in my chest. This wasn't just about me and Kara anymore. It was about the way my entire family was viewing the situation. It was about how I had been pushed into a corner, forced to defend myself, and now I was being told that the only way to fix it was to apologize. I couldn't shake the feeling that I was being painted as the bad guy for standing up for my own privacy. That evening, as I sat in the living room with my wife, I couldn't stop thinking about it. My wife, seeing the tension in my face, walked over and sat beside me. I can tell something's bothering you, she said softly, taking my hand in hers. What's going on? I leaned back, rubbing my temples. It's Kara. And my mom. They're all pressuring me to apologize. I don't think I can do it. She was quiet for a moment, letting me vent, before replying, I get it. I know it's hard when family expects you to just let things go. But what happened wasn't just about your condition. It's about how Kara treated you, how she made something so personal into a public spectacle. I nodded, feeling a sense of relief just from hearing her validate my feelings. Exactly. And now I'm the one who has to apologize, as if I did something wrong. I know, she said, her voice soft but firm. But don't let them make you feel small. You don't owe Kara anything. You owe it to yourself to stand firm in your boundaries. Her words were like a balm to the irritation that had been building inside me. I wasn't alone in this, and I didn't have to apologize just because someone else was uncomfortable with the way I handled it. I had to take control of the narrative. This was my life, my body, and I had a right to keep it private. The next day, my phone buzzed again. This time, it was a message from my friend Mark. Hey man, Kara's been reaching out to me. She's saying you need to talk to her. I frowned. What else is new? I replied, rolling my eyes. Mark's message was quick to follow. I'm just saying, if you want to clear the air, maybe it's worth having a conversation. She's really upset, and it's starting to cause some tension in the group. I put my phone down, thinking about it. Mark had always been the peacemaker, the one who tried to fix things when they went wrong. But I wasn't sure if I was ready to sit down with Kara and have a calm, rational conversation. The last time we tried talking, it ended in her storming out. But maybe Mark had a point. Maybe a direct conversation was the only way this would end. I didn't want to keep fighting. I just wanted to be heard, to make it clear that I wasn't the one who had done anything wrong here. The decision to finally talk to Kara wasn't something I took lightly. I had gone back and forth in my mind, debating whether it was worth it to sit down with her after everything that had transpired. But Mark's message, coupled with the constant pressure from my family, had me second-guessing myself. Maybe I wasn't being fair. Maybe I was being too stubborn. I couldn't deny the discomfort the situation had caused in our circle, especially with how my mom and even my wife had reacted. So I sent Kara a message. Let's talk. But this time, it's going to be on my terms. We can't keep going around in circles. She responded quickly, almost too quickly. Fine. We can meet tomorrow at Mark's place. We need to clear the air. The next day, I felt a weight on my chest as I drove to Mark's house. I had no idea what to expect. Was Kara going to apologize? Was she still convinced I was in the wrong? Part of me wanted to just walk away from the whole thing, but the reality was there was a mess to clean up. I needed to be done with this before it dragged on any further. Mark's house had the same warm, familiar feeling it always did. But today, the atmosphere was heavier. As I walked through the door, I saw Kara sitting on the couch, arms folded tightly across her chest. She didn't look at me at first, just stared straight ahead, clearly bracing herself for this conversation. I took a seat across from her, the silence between us stretching out. Mark was there too, standing awkwardly in the corner, clearly not wanting to get caught in the middle of this. Look, I started, trying to keep my voice even. I'm glad we could meet. But I need to make a few things clear before we go any further. Kara looked at me then, her expression hard but tired. Go ahead, she said coldly. You've made it pretty clear how you feel. I could feel the old resentment bubbling back to the surface, but I tried to keep it in check. What you did, invading my privacy, making something that's none of your business into a public spectacle, it was wrong. I told you that at Mark's house. And I'm not going to pretend it didn't hurt, because it did. Kara's face reddened, but she didn't interrupt. That gave me the courage to keep going. You're my cousin. I've known you my whole life, and I never asked for your help with this. It's a personal issue that I've been dealing with for years. When you pushed me at my mom's house, you didn't just invade my personal space, you forced me to explain myself to you, in front of everyone. That's not okay. There was a long pause. I could see Kara's jaw clenched, but her eyes wavered for a second. I didn't mean to hurt you, she said softly, her voice catching slightly. I just thought you were hiding something. It didn't make sense. I care about you, and I wanted to make sure you were okay. I softened at her words. Maybe she was trying, in her own misguided way, to help. But that didn't make it right. I understand that you care. But I'm not a child anymore, Kara. I'm not someone you get to fix. I manage my condition the way my doctors have advised. I don't need you to swoop in and make assumptions about my life. You have no idea how much it stings when someone does that. Kara looked down, her hands wringing in her lap. I just thought you were hiding something because you didn't trust me. I never meant to make you feel like I was attacking you. But it's hard, you know? When you love someone, you just want to make sure they're okay. I could hear the sincerity in her voice, and for a moment I felt a pang of guilt. Maybe I had been too harsh on her. Maybe I could have handled the situation differently. But the truth was, this wasn't about my feelings for Kara. It was about maintaining control over my own life. She hadn't just overstepped once. She had bulldozed my boundaries multiple times. I sighed, pinching the bridge of my nose. I get that you were trying to help. But there's a better way to show you care than by gossiping behind my back and trying to force me into revealing something I'm not ready to share. That's not love. That's meddling. Kara's eyes filled with frustration. I wasn't trying to meddle. I just wanted to understand. And I thought that by getting everyone involved, I could help you face it. I shook my head. That's not how it works. You can't force someone to share something they're not comfortable with, especially when they've made it clear they want to keep it private. The silence that followed was deafening. Kara looked like she was processing my words, but I wasn't sure if she truly understood the depth of what I was saying. Finally, she spoke again, quieter this time. I didn't mean to hurt you. I'm sorry. I should have respected your boundaries more. I guess I got carried away, trying to be the fixer. I don't want to cause more problems. You're my family, and I don't want to lose you over this. Her apology wasn't perfect, and I didn't expect it to be. But it was a start. A real one. For the first time in a while, I felt like we were getting somewhere. I didn't want to hold on to the bitterness any longer, and maybe, just maybe, this conversation could be the first step toward healing. I appreciate you saying that, I said, letting out a breath I didn't know I'd been holding. But I need you to understand that I'm not ashamed of my condition. It's just something I manage, and I prefer to keep it private. If I wanted you to know more, I would have told you. I just need you to respect that. Kara nodded slowly, her gaze softening. I will. I'll try to be better about it. The conversation with Kara felt like a weight being lifted off my chest. It wasn't a perfect resolution, and I wasn't naive enough to think it was going to be smooth sailing from here on out. But there was something different about the way she spoke this time. It wasn't about fixing me. It wasn't about making me feel ashamed or guilty. She was simply owning up to her mistakes. "I'm sorry for pushing you," she said one last time, her voice soft, almost hesitant. "I'll back off. You don't have to explain yourself to me if you don't want to." I gave a small nod, finally feeling some sense of relief. "Thank you. I just want to live my life without feeling like I'm constantly under a microscope. You don't need to be involved in every detail." Kara sat in silence for a moment, looking down at her hands before finally meeting my gaze. "I never wanted to make you feel like you weren't in control. I care about you. I've always been like this. I guess I didn't realize how much it could hurt." I swallowed hard, letting her words settle in. As much as I was still processing the whole ordeal, I couldn't ignore the fact that she was trying. She wasn't just defending herself anymore. She was acknowledging the damage she'd caused. "Look," I said, taking a breath. "I don't expect you to change overnight. We all have our moments and we all mess up. But I'm glad we could talk about this. And I hope we can leave it behind us now." She smiled faintly, a small, genuine smile. "I hope so too." I stood up, feeling like I could finally move forward. Mark, who had been quietly watching the exchange from the sidelines, gave me an encouraging nod. It was clear that he'd been holding his breath through the whole conversation, not wanting to take sides, but hoping for some kind of resolution. "I think we're good now," I said to him, offering a tired smile. Mark chuckled and clapped me on the shoulder. "Glad to hear it. Now, let's get lunch before we all starve." The tension in the room had faded, and with it, the suffocating weight of the past few days seemed to dissipate. Kara and I didn't hug or suddenly become best friends, but we'd reached an understanding. That was all I needed. As we walked out of the house, I could see that Kara's expression had softened. She wasn't the enemy anymore, just someone who had made a mistake and was learning from it. For me, that was enough. I wasn't asking for perfection, just for respect. And I had gotten that. The next few weeks passed without incident. My mom, after hearing the resolution from Kara, eventually stopped pushing me to apologize. My friends treated the whole situation like it was just another bump in the road, nothing worth losing sleep over. Even Kara started texting me again, but this time, it was about casual things, no more unsolicited advice or awkward confrontations. As I sat with my wife one evening, talking about the whole ordeal, I realized something important. The more I tried to protect myself, the more I had to remind myself that I wasn't a burden to anyone. I didn't need to justify my health or my condition to anyone who wasn't prepared to listen and respect my boundaries. I had spent too long feeling like I owed people explanations, but now I was learning to stand firm, to take control of my own story. "We're good," I told her with a quiet smile, knowing that I was beginning to trust in myself again. She smiled back, squeezing my hand. "I'm proud of you for standing up for yourself. It wasn't easy, but you did it. And you didn't back down." "Yeah," I said with a deep exhale. "It's not easy, but I'm learning how to own my own life. And if people can't handle that, then that's their problem, not mine." It wasn't just about Kara anymore. It was about learning how to protect myself, how to set boundaries, and how to stop allowing other people's expectations to dictate my life. For the first time in a long while, I felt like I was finally free from the weight of others' assumptions. The whole ordeal had been uncomfortable, but it had also been a turning point. In the end, I wasn't just standing up for my condition, I was standing up for myself. And that made all the difference. Hope you enjoyed the story. Be sure to subscribe and like the video to keep up with all our latest uploads.